I know you love earning travel rewards and cash back, and that's why you're going to love Rakuten. With Rakuten, you can earn cash back on everything you need to book your dream trip, hotels, flights, rental cars, experiences, and more, while still booking through your favorite travel sites. And don't worry, cash back can be earned on top of earning the credit card points and the hotel and airline loyalty points that matter most to you, depending on how you make your booking. Plus, with Rakuten, you can also earn cash back on groceries and other purchases like electronics, pet supplies, and more. And the best part, you can join today for free and start earning cash back on top of your travel rewards. Go to Rakuten.com or get the app. That's Rakuten, Rakuten. Rakuten, the most rewarding way to shop.
This episode is brought to you by TaxAct. Don't do your taxes alone. Join TaxAct's National Admin Night. Admin nights are social gatherings for getting through your to-do list. So get ready for a night of fun, finding deductions, and filing taxes with TaxAct, where you can file your federal and state return for just $49 through April 8. Let's get together and get them over with. Visit taxact.com/admin-night for details.
We gather here tonight to bring women back to their rightful place.
The Testaments, a new Hulu original series from the executive producers of The Handmaid's Tale.
It's easier to accept a story than believe that the people around you are monsters.
The battle isn't over.
There comes a time when you have to take action, when you have to choose your own destiny.
Never quite as it seems.
Watch the new Hulu original series, The Testaments, streaming on Hulu and Hulu on Disney Plus for bundle subscribers. Terms apply.
To be fair, summer is the most popular time, but it's the most popular still in certain areas. So there's a lot of places you can come in the summertime and still see hardly anybody. And I think that gets missed. Like I remember there was an article about Iceland being, there's like over tourism or something. And it was like, no, they're just going to the South Coast mostly. That's why it seems like that. But there's literally every other region of the country, including the Highlands, where I can go like when it's available to travel there and maybe see two people.
That is today's wonderful guest, Jules Chambers. You can check out her amazing resources for travel in Iceland at allthingsiceland.com. She also has a podcast called All Things Iceland, and I love getting travel recommendations from knowledgeable expats who know a country as a local, but are also able to see it from the travel perspective. Jules moved to Iceland in 2016. The population of Iceland at the time of recording is just under 400,000 people. And last year, Iceland ranked first in Northern Europe for tourists per capita, with 1.8 tourists per resident, according to worlddata.info, which means, of course, that it can be crowded any time of year if you go where everyone else goes. But Jules is here to help you zig when everyone else is zagging. In this episode, you'll discover 10 hidden gems across Iceland that most travelers miss, why Iceland's Highlands offer some of the most spectacular and empty landscapes on Earth, essential travel planning tips for dealing with Iceland's unpredictable weather and extreme conditions, alternatives to the crowded Blue Lagoon that locals actually use, how living in Iceland changed her perspective on the work-life balance, and so much more. Whether you're planning your first trip to Iceland or perhaps looking to go deeper than the typical Golden Circle tour, Jules provides the insider knowledge that can transform your experience from tourist to temporary local. Let's dive in, shall we? Buckle up, strap in. Thanks for being here, and welcome to the Zero to Travel podcast, my friend.
You're listening to the Zero to Travel podcast, where we explore exciting travel-based work, lifestyle, and business opportunities, helping you to achieve your wildest travel dreams. And now your host, world wanderer and travel junkie, Jason Moore.
Hey, it's Jason here with ZeroToTravel.com. Welcome to the show, my friend. Thank you for being here, letting me bring a little travel into your ears today. This is the show to help you travel the world on your terms, to fill your life with as much travel as you desire, no matter what your situation or experience. Jules Chambers, our guest today, has certainly done it on her terms, moving to Iceland in 2016, leaving behind the sort of hectic hustle culture of the East Coast for a much different vibe, a much different culture. And part of this interview today, you're going to hear, of course, her story, how she ended up going to Iceland, what that whole experience was like. And I'm endlessly fascinated with that journey that people take when they decide to move abroad. And there are always insightful lessons to unpack. So you're going to hear plenty of takeaways today. And of course, these travel recommendations, which are gold. So please enjoy this episode. And if you stick around on the back end, I'll leave you with a wonderful quote to send you on your day, something that has motivated me on my personal travel journey, first as a nomad and then eventually moving abroad. It's a good one. And lastly, just a quick reminder, well, two things. zerototravel.com/newsletter is where our free newsletter goes out. You can sign up over there. It goes out once a week. And of course, allthingsiceland.com. Jules has a podcast as well. Be sure to give it a listen. Without further ado, here is my conversation with the wonderful Jules Chambers. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you on the other side, my friend. Cheers. Jules Chambers from All Things Iceland. Welcome to the Zero to Travel podcast, my friend. How you doing?
I am well. Thank you for having me, Jason. I'm excited to be here.
Thank you for being here. I've been looking forward to this because we are two East Coasters from the USA who moved to Scandinavia.
Yeah.
I know two different countries, and we both moved in 2016. I moved to Norway in 2016,
wow,
actually.
Cool.
So I feel like we're going to have some things to talk about here. Iceland's so popular now to visit. And so like the real intention behind this episode from like a destination perspective is to help people discover some of the things that most people are missing, because it's easy to hit just the surface level things as a tourist / traveler. And you're incredible at teaching people how to do that. So, and so people actually check out the website and stuff. If they're going to Iceland, should definitely use your content as a resource. So I'm excited to talk about that stuff. But before we dive in, of course, I'm going to want to hear about your journey. But I noticed on your LinkedIn profile, you had a quote on creativity from Bill Moyers. You said, "Creativity is piercing the mundane to find the marvelous," which is a beautiful quote. And you mentioned creativity a couple times, I think, in your LinkedIn thing. And then all the work that you do is very, creative type of work. I'm just wondering, like for you, I'm guessing creativity is a core value. I'm just wondering like what your relationship is with like sort of creativity, how it fits into your life.
Yeah, it is the essence of why I'm even able to do this in terms of talking about Iceland. Of course, the passion behind wanting to share and learning something new and being excited to share it with people. But from my own perspective, from my own idea of what the world looks like, my own perspective is unique. Everybody says, right? So I don't want to take it just as I'm just like special, extra special version, but just tapping into that and not being lost in the idea that like you have to fit a frame in order for people to be receptive to you. It's like being authentic is a core value of mine, having space for creativity. And like you'd mentioned with that quote, piercing the mundane, I think we're often settling for what is given to us rather than thinking what is best for our actual like progression and growth. And that takes some creativity. It takes imagining, for instance, both of us leaving the United States and coming to a different country to live and settle. It takes some imagination on your part to think of like, this could be a positive experience for me. And how do I want it to unfold? We can't control everything, but I want it to unfold in a certain way, and having that goal in mind, along with allowing my creativity to be a part of how I navigate it, has been a core, way of me being able to make the most out of living in Iceland and enjoy myself.
Yeah, that's what's, I think, really unique is you're utilizing your creativity specifically around the content at All Things Iceland, which is, where you ended up, but we can talk about how you ended up there and everything. I know things have changed fairly recently for you. As somebody living abroad, it's a different way in to kind of do the type of business that you're doing because it's focused on where you're living. So it's like from a meta perspective, it's kind of like, was it for you? Like, was it like, I don't know if this is going to work, but this is like an opportunity for me to get to know this place I'm going to live? Like, what was kind of the intention on this, like doing this specifically, as opposed to like many of the other things you could have applied your talents to.
Yeah. I mean, I was working for companies in Iceland. It was not like I came to Iceland and immediately jumped into doing All Things Iceland. In fact, it didn't even start like that. It started about From Foreign to Familiar was a blog that I had on the side. Because, okay, maybe I should start from the fact that I had, I was in love with an Icelander. And I say I was because we're no longer together. So I know you were alluding to like things having changed. But I also had secured a job before I moved. So a key piece of me moving to Iceland was that I was already working in digital marketing for companies in the United States. And I found out because of the tourism boom, especially at the time, that this was a specialty area that Icelanders did not have. Within the country, they didn't have a lot of education around digital marketing. And so I was actually able to fill a need in a big tourism company as their content marketing manager. They hired me for that. And I was very fortunate to do that because I wasn't feeling comfortable moving to Iceland without being able to continue my career. So there was never a moment when I moved that I was like, I'm going to talk about Iceland for a living at some point, right? Like that was not a strategic move at all. I sort of fell into it because, first of all, I love listening to podcasts. So you have an awesome podcast. And like the interviews with people are always so enlightening to me because our journeys are so different. But there's usually like key turning points. Everybody has a catalyst in which they feel like they need to take action to make change in their life. And for me, it was listening to Tim Ferriss's podcast so much. I mean, I was always like cooking meals and stuff and multitasking in essence. And I can't remember who the guest was that he spoke to that was just like, you don't know what your passion in life is. Like it just doesn't fall from the sky and hit you. And even though I was enjoying my jobs in digital marketing, I just didn't feel like I loved it. I didn't feel driven in this, specific profession to help other people's companies grow. And while I was doing well in it, like people were obviously happy with my work and I was continuing to work there. And then I actually got headhunted to go to an agency in Iceland as well, which was another catalyst I'll talk about. But the whole point is that like hearing this, I thought to myself, okay, what if I just try different things and what's happening in my life that might be interesting to share? And moving to Iceland, people were asking me all the time, like, what is it like? What do you do there? Why should anybody visit? And so I was like, okay, friends and family are curious. Maybe other people are curious. I'm also coming from a place where I'm a Black woman coming from the United States. Like it's very odd to come into this space, or seemingly odd to come into this space and feel comfortable, right? So it's like, what does that journey look like? Is it been, rife with challenges, or has it been fun and exciting? For me, it's been fun and exciting. And I'm very fortunate to say that. So I realized I had different layers I could share, but I was not sure this was going to work at all. Let me just be very clear. It was not like this is, instant success. And it wasn't instant success. I was always thinking about like, are people even going to be receptive to me? Especially in the beginning when I started YouTube, I was so afraid, and YouTube trolls really know how to come for you. So I had, different experiences that I had to learn and navigate as now the brand of something rather than doing it behind the scenes for other brands. So this really,
right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Using all those strategies, like for a company, the comments are rolling in, but it doesn't really affect you personally. And now all of a sudden you're getting people commenting personally on you, which is part of putting yourself out there as a content creator, but also takes some getting used to.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I'm sure you can understand that, right? It is not easy when you get criticism, especially when it's not constructive. It's just people are either they're hurt. I had to realize that too. There are so many people out in the world whose opinions don't really have a lot to do with you. There are, though, people who have, helpful things to say. And it's good to learn to shift through what is actually constructive criticism and someone just being a jerk.
Yeah. So did the job bring you to Iceland? Then you met your ex? Or did you meet your ex and then you got a job because you were on your way to be with him?
Yeah, I met my ex. So we met in the United States a long time ago. So when I was maybe 19 years old, I was in college. I met an Icelander on campus at my school. So I was going to Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute in Troy, New York. And that person, that Icelander, was a friend, and he had friends visiting. And so my ex was one of the friends that visited. And so all that, long time ago, met him, but we didn't get together then. It wasn't until maybe 7-8 years later, quite a while later, that he ended up moving from Iceland to the United States to study. We got reconnected. through Facebook, of course, social media, bringing everybody together. And it's so funny because we also were like, we're not either, when the time we were talking before we got together as a couple, we're not interested in having long distance relationships, not like all these things that we said we didn't want to do, we came together and did together, right? So like, and he had already told me that he planned to move back to Iceland. Like I knew this before we started dating, that he planned to move back because he was a psychologist and wanted to be able to provide those services here because there's not a lot of male psychologists. And I was like, that's great. And he was like, how do you feel about like moving to Iceland? And I was like, it'll be an adventure. I think it would be great. You know, like I just decided that I was in love with this person and I'm going to make it work. But I did have one thing that had to be fulfilled for it to be possible for me to move. And that was finding a job. So I was heavily on the hunt and having him help me because the language is difficult. And just, you know, wherever I thought, even project management, wherever I thought something could work, I would apply for it. And finally, a company that was so shocked that this girl from New York City was applying to the job. They wanted to talk to me just because of that. And then come to find out, like I was a perfect fit for what they were looking for. And so, yeah, it was definitely love and then work. But the work was an important piece for me to feel secure, I guess, like monetarily to move.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Are you a citizen now, or?
Mm-hmm. Yes, I've been a citizen for a couple of years. Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you. How about you? Are you a citizen in Norway?
Yeah, same.
Nice.
Just a couple of years ago, and also a similarity. I met my wife in Brazil, but then we weren't in contact for like 4 years, and there was a gap, so we connected. So it's just, it's kind of funny to hear how
awesome.
some of our stories match up a bit. Do you remember when, like, the day you kind of got there, the first few days you were there, kind of how you were feeling? Like, take us back to, you know, there is a stark difference between the moment where you're like saying, yeah, sure, I'll move to Iceland. No, it's an adventure. And then all of a sudden you're there and it's like 3 weeks in and you're like, well, here I am. I guess I live in Iceland now. You know what I mean? It's just it's a strange journey. In some ways, I think anybody that's gone abroad for a period of time somewhere can relate. I'm just wondering, how was that time for you?
Yeah. My first couple of days I remember so well because I quit my job in New York in April, I think, and I was moving to Iceland in June of 2016. And I had a couple of, months to be able to go on vacation, pack my stuff, get everything together. So I made the decision that I was okay with starting work the day after I arrived to Iceland. So I arrived on, I think, like the 21st, and I started on the 22nd.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah, right? So the first day...
No soft landing.
No.
Let me acclimate to the culture. Just diving right in.
Exactly. And we lived in a part of Reykjavik, the greater Reykjavik city area called Árbær. We were only there for like 3 months because we had gotten a temporary apartment. And my job was maybe a 20-minute walk from where I was living. So it was really nice to be able to walk. And I remember the first day, so Gunnar came, he drove me to work, my ex, and then, no, he didn't drive me, he walked with me to work. No, he drove me. Yes, he drove me, sorry. And then I was supposed to walk back, but he met me. And then the second day, I was supposed to walk to work by myself, but I got lost. So because when we drove, I didn't recognize, my brain wasn't doing the like, oh, this is this street or whatever. No.
Yeah.
And
sure.
I was
jet lagged, first day
Yes.
at the job in a new country, like totally understandable.
Yeah, it was not a smart move. And I had already lost my phone previous to moving to Iceland. This is not typical for me at all to lose my phone. So I was like, didn't have any way to communicate with people. I was looking at streets, trying my best, not understanding the language hardly at all. Like I knew a few words. And I was sitting there and I was just like, oh my God, I could see the time on my watch. And I was like, I'm going to be late for work. It's like my second day. You know what I mean? I'm going to be late. And I started crying because I was like, I didn't understand anything. I didn't know where to go. And I'm not easily a person who cries, but it was just so overwhelming to know that I didn't recognize the path walking there, even though technically I'd gone this path in a car or similarly. And I finally got to work and I told my boss what happened. He was like, oh yeah, it's okay. You're fine. And I was like, really? He's like, yeah, it happens, And he's like, are you okay though? And I was like, I think so. Like, it was just like, This was not the, baptism by hellfire type of experience I wanted to have coming in. And everything had always been smooth. So my boss was amazing. The people I worked with in the company, they were all mountaineers and loving nature, biking to work in Iceland where it's windy and rainy and snowy and icy. And so I ended up doing those things. It's because of this company and my job there that they were like, you have to learn and understand the experience of being out on these tours so that you can market it well to people. And I was like, okay. So I was just also thrown into doing not mountaineering, but like definitely hiking. I did some mountaineering stuff because there was a project that I took on sort of like as a aside to my regular work, where there was one of our guides was turning 40 that next year, and he wanted to do 40 different ice climbs because he was really into that. And so we went to a location, and I went with a bunch of mountaineers to a place that doesn't have a trail. We're hiking up the mountain. I'm from New York City. I do not hike normally. And
yeah, I was going to ask, is this like something you grew up doing? Because I know you're from the city. So yeah, okay.
Concrete
this is
jungle.
Like, yeah,
okay.
outside of your comfort zone kind of thing.
Absolutely.
At the time. Yeah.
Slowest by a long shot, okay, when it came to getting up the mountain. And then finally we got up the mountain, I thought to myself, oh no, later we have to go down. And it's very steep. And it was just like, my body never hurt as much in this moment. But I vowed after that experience that I was not going to allow this to happen to me again. Like I was going to get better at hiking. I was going to really embrace nature. I loved it. I had a wonderful time. But I also realized I was limited in being able to experience Iceland by not like getting my body physically more able to participate.
We'll get back to the interview in just a moment. I know you love earning travel rewards and cash back, and that's why you're going to love Rakuten. With Rakuten, you can earn cash back on everything you need to book your dream trip, hotels, flights, rental cars, experiences, and more, while still booking through your favorite travel sites. And don't worry, cash back can be earned on top of earning the credit card points and the hotel and airline loyalty points that matter most to you, depending on how you make your booking. Plus, with Rakuten, you can also earn cash back on groceries and other purchases like electronics, pet supplies, and more. And the best part, you can join today for free and start earning cash back on top of your travel rewards. Go to Rakuten.com or get the app. That's Rakuten, Rakuten. Rakuten, the most rewarding way to shop. Now, back to the show. We're going to dive into these hidden gems, I promise. I want to ask you, like, what is being in Iceland? I mean, that's a great example, and I think a great way into learning a bit more about what being in Iceland for you, like revealed maybe parts of your personality or things you liked or anything that were kind of maybe there and they had to be discovered, or like in this case, like, just not getting the chance to be exposed to that growing up in the city and now being exposed to like being hiking or being in nature. What are some other things that being there specifically taught you about yourself, I guess?
Well, I mean, for sure that I was capable of a lot more. And Icelanders they don't call themselves this, but people often look at them as like Swiss Army knives of people, because it's not unusual for someone to be like working a corporate job and also is the lead guitarist in a band and likes to, like do all these different activities. And I think it's because it's just such a small nation that people have many different interests that they're participating in all the time. And it also helps to keep your mind off of, the darkness, as I'm sure you're familiar with. So I think it taught me my capacity most of the time in the US that I was, while, doing a lot of things, I was also limiting myself a little bit to what I thought was possible for me. Now, granted, I'm from New York City, so it's not that I didn't think a lot was possible, but I just, one way of being, which is sort of like in this rat race type of mentality, was more the norm for me. Whereas here, family is very important. I'm not saying there's work-life balance. I mean, that's very hard to achieve. And I don't know if balance is really the right word anyway, but just priorities. But I thought it was interesting. Like my mindset changed around working environments. And I was very strict about when I first came. I came in the summer, right? And to me, summertime in New York is guaranteed. So people were taking off. It was a beautiful day, like 16 degrees Celsius or something. They would take off from work at 3:00. They would leave and be like, it's a nice day, we're leaving. And I'm like, what is this? Like, this is so lazy, right? And like, I had like, I hate to say it, but I was so judgy and being like, I'm staying here until the time in which you're paying me, first of all. And I also had a lot to prove, right? Like, I'm coming in the newbie, whatever, wanted to make sure that I was achieving what was being expected of me or exceeding that. And I just didn't understand that thetaretast, which is like, everything will work out. But also like, if there's sun and blue sky in Iceland, you go out and enjoy it. You do not waste a day like that. And the following summer, 2017, was horrific. There was hardly any sun. There was a lot of rain. We didn't see the sun for weeks, actually. It was just so cloudy all the time. And we're seeing it for the first time, and I was in a while, and thought to myself, wow, this is beautiful. And I am never going to take this for granted again, right? So it's just like my whole way of living started to shift over to understanding that like we're at the mercy of the elements here, really be grateful for like the little sunshine spots that you get. And also like a lot of the times the weather is not that terrible. Like I'll tell you one story. I know we want to get into the hidden gems.
No, I love it.
But one thing that shocked me was that we would have, and often do have, hurricane gale force winds that come from a storm, like a yellow warning or a red warning. And I would think to myself, okay, it's my first year living here. This is dangerous. We're all going to stay inside, right? Like no one's going to work. Like this is pretty scary. There's been times where the wind was so strong it blew windows out of like a bus. It was like not something to joke around with. And everyone's like, no, we go to work. And I was like, you leave the house? And they're like, yeah. And I remember the weather person saying, like, make sure if you're walking your kid to school to hold their hand so they don't like blow over. So it was just like, and I was like, this is madness. Are you kidding me? Like, this is so dangerous for children. And yet in their minds, they're like, no, we do things all sorts of weather. Obviously, if it's like horrific, we don't go out, but this isn't considered horrific enough. Right? Like to you.
No, a kid blowing away off into wherever, that's not horrific enough.
And I was just like, oh, okay. So like I got used to it, but it was scary sometimes when I would take the bus and the bus would be shaking, or the car, like you're holding onto the wheel. You could feel the wheel turning with the wind direction, right? And this is a typical Icelandic experience for a lot, like if you're going to stay here long enough, but it can happen, of course, in a trip. I don't want to deter people, from coming to Iceland, but I do think it's helpful to manage your expectations and know that like we don't have any animal predators, but nature is your predator. Like the nature here can kill you. You can, die from exposure, windstorms, all this stuff. And yet it is so worthwhile to come. Just respect the nature and you can enjoy an amazingly beautiful landscape.
Yeah, I can definitely relate to that story with some of these snowstorms and things. And I'm just like, really? The school's not closed? Like no, like when do they ever? No, they don't. They just don't close the school. Like you said, they just hold on to your kids and make sure they don't blow away. Okay, here we go. No, it's interesting. Yeah, when you were talking about the work-life balance, or you said, I'm not sure if that's the right word either, but us specifically coming from the East Coast and that hustle culture, you could, if you want to call it, right? If you want to kind of say that idea of kind of like you said, like I'm going to stay here and I'm going to work until, that's sort of the mentality of where we come from. And so I found that I had the same sort of, it's just so different. Again, two different countries, but there may be some similarities here in Scandinavia with Iceland and Norway. This isn't like their operating mode here. They've got like this social safety net. They're just like, they're not being lazy with their work. They're just prioritizing their family or, their lifestyle. And yeah, like all the shops are closed on Sundays, these kind of things. And it's just like at first, like you said, maybe a little judgy, like, come on, like what's wrong? I can't even go and get a takeout burrito. You know what I mean? And then all of a sudden you're like, well, that's a good thing, actually. Maybe everything in society shouldn't revolve around consumerism and be based on, economy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. And I think, here we do have stuff open on Sunday, but that has changed slowly. Like not the alcohol stores, they don't want that to be available, but still there's a lot of like sick leave for your children. So if you have a kid who gets sick, there are days that are allotted for you to use to help with that. And in both of the companies that I worked for, there was always a kids corner. So if you needed to bring your kid in because the kindergarten was having a teacher morning or teacher day or something, whatever it was just like they understood that this is part of life. Like your job and your family life are not two separate things. They're intertwined. And even the hierarchy aspect of it, I think was really interesting for me, is that like everybody in the company could have a say. And this was in the companies I worked in. So I'm not going to make it seem like every company is absolutely the same, but I've talked to other people and there has been a lot of similar experiences in Iceland. And I think that helps a lot to make you feel like you're an actual valued member of the company, even if you're an intern. And I had experienced, it wasn't myself, but like some other interns when I worked in New York that were just treated like crap. And they were so smart, they had great ideas, and they just weren't taken seriously. And I was like, you are kicking yourself in the foot. You're actually damaging your business by ignoring this person because you want to feel like you are the one in charge. And it's just an ego thing.
There is sort of societal need. I'm not sure if it's the same in Iceland, but it's kind of like this, it's called Jantelova. It's like this idea where sort of like everybody's equal and equality and sort of like not trying to stand out too much, which can be, we've talked about this on the show before. I think there's a good balance of both. You could have like the American individualistic kind of thing, but then you can also have the sort of the Scandinavian cooperative thing. I think that those two things can serve an individual and society in different ways if they're balanced correctly, not to use that word again. It's just, it's interesting to hear that it sort of like sounds like it's similar kind of vibes there in Iceland.
Yeah,
around
definitely.
that.
I think Iceland and other Nordic countries, they look at each other to see what the other is doing, right? And so someone in this region is setting an example, they go like, oh, interesting. So I think that's also really helpful, not in a competitive way, but in a very like dialed in, how do we want our society to be better? And if people are doing it better in Norway or Sweden, Denmark, Finland, wherever, right? Like, how do we want our society to be? And can we take from this model? Like, I think maternity and paternity leave, for instance, have changed drastically in Iceland because there are other Nordic countries that are doing it better or having longer time and realizing that it isn't impacting business in a negative way. And so it's like, okay, then we'll put this in place too. And it's just, so I think when we, like you mentioned, stop going from this like all about yourself and have more of as a society, how do we all benefit from, more time off even, which sounds crazy to a lot of people. It changes how everybody feels about going to work or even their contribution and what they want to contribute or even how much they're willing to give. Because people are often more willing to give a lot more than you would expect when they feel that their time is not just about how much they work, but like the whole as a human.
Giving people some context on the society is probably a good way to enter into the conversation of what we might want to see as travelers when we're passing through. And of course, our goals, we know we're passing through. We know we can only get so deep, but it's nice to understand a bit of the values of the society. And, even if it's travel cosplay or whatever you want to call it, right? Like, kind of embedding yourself in those values, you can almost experiment in a way.
Yeah.
Hey, like what if like I was more relaxed about work? Or what if I did embrace this kind of, how would that be? And maybe that's an opportunity to do that next time you travel to Iceland. I am going to circle back we're going to get into some of your travel tips and destinations and things. I do want to circle back at the end and ask you how living there for these years has changed the way you see your home country, because I am curious. You can think about that for a little bit. Did you speak Icelandic, by the way? Okay. Which furthers your connection with the country.
Yeah.
I'm sure. Yeah. Because I know on your website you say, I'm incredibly grateful to share with all of you what makes this country so unique. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to start there. Like, what does make Iceland so unique? Mm-hmm. And then we can get into your list here, which I'm excited to hear.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of things that make Iceland unique. I think just being an island in the North Atlantic that's been isolated for such a long period of time. So Old Norse is how Old Icelandic was formed, because it was, a lot of Norwegians mostly coming over who decided to settle in Iceland, and which is now Icelandic, modern day Icelandic. So Icelanders can much more easily than people from Norway, because their language has evolved much more, than Icelandic. They can read Old Icelandic. The way they speak is the same or similar to how Old Icelandic was spoken. written wise, it's different, but it can be deciphered, right? So it's just like a really interesting ability kind of like for the language have been so isolated, not changed for so long, to be able to connect back to text from back in the day without feeling like you have to have a PhD or something. Like a regular Icelander could do it if they put in the effort. And I also think that like tradition wise, things here are fascinating. So like fermented foods, right? Like it's pretty gross a lot of the times to smell fermented shark, let alone try it. I mean, I'm plant-based. I've been plant-based for going on 9 years. But when I was visiting Iceland, I was trying all of these things. And I was like, whoa, this is kind of gross. But also, there's a lot of delicious foods too. So like, it's very modern. And yet they are really like holding on to traditions. And of course, like I mentioned with the language, it's very important for Icelanders to feel like that is something that is preserved and spoken and understood, and younger generations are speaking English a lot more. So that's like really making people nervous. There's different other cultural things, like even the names of people in Iceland. When you go to name your child, there's a naming committee that can approve or disapprove. So there's already an approved list of many names. But if you want to name your child like the devil, they'd be like, no, like, you can't do that. They can disapprove that. So there's a lot of like input into life, and yet it's relaxed at the same time. So not everything is super controlled. And I think I'd mentioned earlier thataretas, which is, in essence, everything will work out in the end, or everything will be okay. And this is needed because like the amount of weather variation, your crops, livestock, volcanic eruptions that could happen and destroy things. You just need to, or at least I've found the coping mechanism is just, it's all going to work out. It's going, you know what I mean? Like we just hold on to that hope. Now, granted, it gets abused in terms of, people not paying their bills, and they're at the end of the month, they have no idea if they're going to be able to keep their house or something. And they're like, that at us. And it's like, no, you caused this. Okay. This is not like you did everything you could and now it's at this point. But often it is the case like that. And I think it allows for Icelanders to be relaxed, and to have a lot of fun. A lot of Icelanders are, not the biggest rule followers in the world. So it's not unusual to see somebody like parking on the sidewalk, like doing things, kind of just always edging across the boundary. And that's mainly because the way Icelanders have lived in modern times is very short in comparison to other countries that have been more developed. So people in the 1940s and before that, some of them are still living in turf houses, right? This is like modern history in which a lot of Icelanders were very poor. Under Danish rule, which stopped in 1944, Icelanders were extremely poor. And that was because Denmark was like, it had a stronghold on what was allowed and not, could stop imports, things like that. So I think even just kind of indulging in life, and over the past, like a little more than 100 years, you're seeing that. It's like Iceland is establishing itself and also growing kind of in the stages of life. If you think of it like an infant to an adult, like I feel like Iceland's also like a teenager, kind of just like continuously growing up in that way. And I don't mean it in a negative way. I actually mean it this is just the evolution of how things are going for them, and doing their best is to make their impact in the world. So it's not unusual to hear people say like Iceland's besti heimi. It's like best in the world. It's like, you can't be best in the world in everything, maybe in this island. So like, but it's just something people like to say. And it's like, okay.
It's a country that's exploded with visitors. I mean, that, you didn't hear about people going to Iceland very often many years ago, but the last, I would say, I don't know, 10 or 15 years or something, it seems like it's really gone off the rails in terms of tourism. With that said, you're going to help us kind of navigate what to see in Iceland. And I'm curious, as we dive in, and you can kick it off. I don't know if you have this sort of prioritized in like from your 10 to number 1, or if you just have a list here. Is it going to be a mix of like a lot of things that most people will see, but then how to go deeper, or just like things most people don't see at all?
Things most people don't see, I'd say.
Okay.
Yeah. I like
all
that
right.
because there is a lot of things you can see that are great. I would never say just because a route is popular that you shouldn't do it. I think if you're going to come to Iceland and you don't know if you're going to come back, it's good to hit up the hot spots. It's great to, see the Golden Circle or go the South Coast, go to a glacier. Like all of them are great. they're well known for a reason, right? But there's a lot of Iceland, first of all, that's uninhabited. So the majority of the middle of the country is the Highlands. And actually, the majority of the country, if you think about it, just in terms of landmass, is uninhabited because it's the Highlands. And so people can't go and just easily live there. Vegetation doesn't grow that well. Wild weather conditions, right? So there's so much there that you can see in the summertime. In the wintertime, it is closed off unless you have permission. And that permission is usually given to professional tour guides who have special types of cars that can go on these roads where they can flatten their tires and do all this stuff. So I have a decent amount of stuff in here on my list that I'd share, the 10 that have to do with the Highlands, because to be fair, summer is the most popular time, but it's the most popular still in certain areas. So there's a lot of places you can come in the summertime and still see hardly anybody. And I think that gets missed. Like I remember there was an article about Iceland being, there's like over tourism or something. And it was like, no, they're just going to the South Coast mostly. That's why it seems like that. But there's literally every other region of the country, including the Highlands, where I can go like when it's available to travel there and maybe see 2 people.
All right. Well, yeah, kick it off for us. You have a podcast, by the way. I'm sure we mentioned that at the top, but
yeah, All Things Iceland on podcast, YouTube, social media, Instagram, all that jazz. Okay, so this one is becoming more popular, but it's still wonderful, and I would highly recommend it. And that is the Fjöll mountain range. So in this area, they actually have built up. They used to just have a camping area, and they've built up a mountain lodge, so you could do camping, a hostel, or actually stay in like a nice hotel. And they have a geothermal bath. But what makes this area so beautiful and amazing to me is the Hveradalir geothermal area. So people who have maybe heard about Iceland are not hikers. They've heard of Laugavegur Trail, which you start in Landmannalaugar and you end off in Thorsmork. Great, but it's crowded. It's like becoming Disney in the Highlands, right? Like it's like unusual because there's so many people being bussed in. Hveradalir is not like that. And it still gives you this rhyolite mountain look where it's the yellow, green, steam coming up, boiling hot pools. Like it's just really cool. And there's different hiking paths. And it's easy to get to. You don't even have to cross a river. And I think that is, again, for people when they come to new places, they want to minimize the risk as much as possible, which I understand. And you still have to drive a car that is 4-wheel drive and insured for being in the Highlands. So that's something that is every car company has this, availability for, but you have to just make sure it is insured for the Highlands, because otherwise if you take a 2-wheel drive car on there or a 4x4 car on there that's not insured, you would be liable for all the costs that are incurred. So you don't want that. We're talking about buying a new car. Yeah. So
we'll get back to the interview in just a moment.
The new LinkedIn Hiring Pro can't undo your last hire. The lone wolf, who you thought was a good collaborator because you didn't have the right candidate insights. But once you hired them, it was all hoarding info, declining meetings, and howling at the full moon? But LinkedIn Hiring Pro can go deeper than just the resume to find you a perfect fit. By using insights from the LinkedIn network to give you a short list of best fit candidates. Hire right the first time with LinkedIn Hiring Pro. Post a free job today at linkedin.com/quality.
Want to make the most of your tax refund? File with TurboTax on Intuit Credit Karma. They help you get your biggest refund, and then we help you do more with it. With a personalized plan designed to help you hit your money goals. Start filing today in the Credit Karma app.
Now, back to the show. Yeah, by the way, I will ask if it's okay if you could send over this list in written form, because the Icelandic can be tricky, you know?
Yeah, whenever I do, I have these like one-on-one consultation, trip planning consultations with people. And I always tell them, like, at the end of the call, I'm going to send you a document with everything I said, because you're looking at me like, what are you even talking about? Right? So that's like one highland place. Another one, Eldgjá, I love. So there was a volcanic eruption that created Eldgjá, which is this huge canyon. It's fire canyon, in essence, is what the translation is. And it has a waterfall in it, and it's just so beautiful to walk in. And I did a 9-day trekking tour in the summer once. So we trekked from hut to hut, and every day you're doing like, the black deserts and mountains and everything. And I remember going to Eldgjá, And we had a snippet of time where we could actually see the canyon because it was so, like, it started raining, but it was just like, it blows your mind. It is just absolutely gorgeous. So again, a 4-wheel drive car. I'm just starting with the Highland places. And granted, I have 10, but there are a ton more places. I'm just going to give some. So Grænihryggr is in the Landmannalaugar area, but the majority of people are not going to go there because it takes longer to get there. So if you do want to go to Landmannalaugar, but you want to experience something that goes beyond the normal, hiking the route, then Grænihryggr is fabulous. Okay. Hornstrandir. I think elevation-wise, it probably fits as Highlands, but it's not in the middle of the country. It is the West Fjords, which is my favorite part of Iceland outside of the Highlands. And it's in a place where you have to take a boat or, some people can take a flight to like see over it. But if you want to actually go to the location and hike, you have to take a boat. And the majority of people who go end up camping because if you want to do as much in Hornstrandir as possible, there aren't huts and lodges and stuff. And what's crazy amazing about this place is that the Arctic foxes that are there, you're not allowed to hunt them on this. So in other places you can, but here it's a nature reserve. And so they're not afraid of humans, right? So they see you and they're just doing their life and they might stop and look at you and you can get like amazing photos and they're just right there, just living their life, And that's just really beautiful to just interact with nature in this way and see such gorgeous, raw Icelandic nature in the way that most people are often dreaming of. Hornstrandir, for sure. So you can do 1-day tours, but if you want to get the full experience, it's good to do multiple days of, camping around.
Okay. Yeah, that's like the best adjective you could use, probably raw. Like that's what you imagine, like raw nature. Yeah. Sounds awesome.
And we don't have any issues with polar bears or anything like that. So I've been to Greenland a couple of times and I was trekking in Greenland. And our guide had to carry a shotgun with them because if we did encounter a polar bear, or maybe it was, I think it's a shotgun, whatever, some kind of gun that's long. I don't know a lot about guns, to be fair. But she had to carry that just in case we encountered a polar bear because, it's a threat to humans, even though we're in their area, whatever. I get it. I'm not, but still, we wanted to come back alive. But in Iceland, this is very unusual. Like it's a super rare event that a polar bear would ever come over. So like I said, there aren't any animal predators as much as there's like the nature itself and looking out for that. So let's just say Hornstrandir is not possible for you, but you still want to see some really beautiful raw nature. This one's just called Strandir. So it sounds similar, but it's not. It's below Strandir. Yeah, it's below Hornstrandir. So Hornstrandir is like corner of Strandir, and then Strandir is below. Still insanely beautiful. You can drive there. I drove there last year in a camper van. I was camping, I think, for 5 or 6 days in the West Fjords, and loved it. Blew my mind. First of all, there's an abandoned herring factory in Djúpivogur, and yeah, it was just like, it's hauntingly beautiful when you drive through it. There's a lot of windy roads and seeing like the fjords, and there's a pool kind of far. That was my goal, was get to Krossneslaug, and I did. And I was like, all right, next time I'm staying in this area, because I decided I was just going to go out there and then come back and, camp somewhere else. And I was like, I should have stayed out here because it's a long drive and the road is rough, but it is so fun and adventurous. Like, you literally feel like you're just, one of those Indiana Jones type situations where you're just off to the lost world to find out what's there. And again, you can't like in the wintertime see something like this because the snow, ice, whatever, just make it impassable. So you have to do it in the summer. In the Reykjavik area, this is a fun one.
Are we on number 6 right now? By my count, is that right? Something like that.
Sure. Whatever I mention, I'll just have it.
All right. So, you got 10. I know that.
Yeah.
So, all right.
So in the Reykjavik area, there are a couple of things. So Nauthólsvík, and I only talk about this one because it's an imported white beach in Iceland. And again, like summertime, if you come, you can dip in the hot tub. But if you're into cold dipping, there's a sea right there. So a lot of people go sea swimming, but there's also a warmed up portion of the sea as well. So we have a lot of geothermal energy. So we're kind of like pumping in a little bit of warmer water there. And I just think it's funny that like Iceland has all these black beaches. We have white beaches too, but they imported white sand into Reykjavik for this area. So I just find it fun, and you can do some activities there. And Helgufoss is a waterfall that is in the Mosfellsdalur area. It's still like Reykjavik, adjacent. It's only like 20 minutes from downtown. It's a beautiful waterfall, really fun, easy to hike to. And it just gives people who maybe don't have as much time. So if you're going to do the Golden Circle, you can, from Reykjavik, go to Helgufoss and then hit up the other parts of the Golden Circle easily in the day. And in East Iceland, Skriðukloster. I only wrote this one because I think it's unfortunate that people don't go to this lost monastery. So it's a building that was designed by a German architect. It looks nothing like any other building in Iceland. It has white in between these stones. It has a furnace, this old school, like European furnace that you'd find in many other countries, but not anywhere else in the country here. And it belonged to Gunnar Gunnarsson, who was, and still was, a famous author. He's not alive anymore. And he had a whole bunch of drama with his wife, whatever. But they found a monastery that he didn't know about when he built this house, maybe around 500 feet or so from his home at the time before he gave it to the state. And this monastery, when they dug it up, they found all of these like skull remnants of people who had deformities, and like basically they had taken in the sick and the outcasts in society and were taking care of them. So you learned a little bit about like the diseases that were impacting some Icelanders at the time and how this monastery was there, and it got buried in a landslide. They have a VR experience where you can walk through a recreated idea of what the monastery would have looked like. Like it's a fascinating find that if you drive by it, it's hidden by trees, so you don't know to go there. So I just find it really cool.
And it's sort of like unexpected, like, oh, what's all this here?
Yeah.
It's crazy. Yeah, those are the best kind of finds. Yeah.
Exactly. And there's a lot in that museum, and they actually give you a free tour if you ask them at the front desk. They usually don't have a lot going on, so they'll just walk you around and tell you about stuff. So in that same area, East Iceland, Mjóifjörður is this thin fjord that the east can be very foggy, unfortunately. But if it's not foggy and you have the chance to go there, this fjord is insanely gorgeous. So Seyðisfjörður is also, but it's less of a hidden gem, whereas Mjóifjörður is a lot more hidden. Most people never go there. They drive past the exit for it, not realizing that it's really cool.
Can you pronounce that one more time?
Yeah, Mjóifjörður.
Mjóifjörður.
Yeah, okay. There you go. You got it. So I think I'm mostly...
Icelandic sounds tricky.
It is weird. And to think that like Norwegian people spoke like this, right? But because you're because you're neighboring other countries, you have influence from so many other people. And also the way that language evolves is that it gets simpler. So I learned this from one of the great courses in NYU. They have like free courses. I listened to one about linguistics and the evolution of language. And I was like, oh, no wonder Icelandic is so complicated. There's all these different cases and everything. It's because the more it evolves, if you allow it to evolve, the easier it gets. So Norwegian, similar to like, even German is easier than it used to be, but Icelandic has a similar structure as German. It's just much more difficult in terms of the declensions and things.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah. One out on the Reykjanes Peninsula, Selatangar, I think it is. It's an old fishing village that's abandoned, but also has a ghost story associated with it. And if you're out there, like there's a lot of driftwood. It's really beautiful. And there's these stone buildings that are partially, collapsed. But the idea is that the ghost, if you trip on something, it's because the ghost is like playing a trick on you. So like this whole thing of like if you're walking out there, that he's not like menacing, but he just wants you to kind of like fall, like or to like almost fall. And so I really enjoy these like little things that are off the beaten path for sure. You have to go on a road that's really rough, so a 4-wheel drive would be better. But you can get out there with a 2-wheel drive. It's just a little trickier.
There's like one person listening, and they're like, They have tripped by a ghost on their bucket list. They're like, where am I going to do this? Finally, I found my place.
Exactly.
Congratulations, listener. It's your lucky day.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Bucket lists of, of people are varied. So
that's awesome. Amazing list.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. I mean, of course, we'll get that all in written form because I know, again, the Icelandic can be tricky. But we'll link up to your packing list too, because I know you have a packing list, and that could be something that could be really helpful for people, given that you might experience like every season in like a day. And literally, what is your advice for travel planning while factoring in the weather? This is something I always tell people coming to Norway too. It's like, it's cool that you have like your plans, but then feel free to sort of shuffle them around based on the weather. Do you have any other sort of advice around weather planning? Because like you said, it can be extreme.
Right. Yeah. And like you'd mentioned, like the packing checklist. So it has winter and summer lists. I split it into two so that people, no matter what time of year you have, a list or essentials. And layering is so important. So because it can be really varied, you want to be able to take off or put on depending on your comfort level. And there's certain material that works better than others. So if like your base layer, for instance, you want it to be that it wicks away sweat. Like you don't want to wear like a cotton t-shirt underneath because they would keep you wet and then you feel cold longer, right? Like that's, in my opinion, like when you think about the weather, it's being very strategic about what you wear, along with looking at the weather, of course, before you head out. Iceland, it can tell you that it's not going to rain and it will still do it. So like, just again, like expect that those conditions will happen. Safetravel.is is a website I always talk about because they will tell you if there's a weather warning in a certain area, road closures, volcanic eruptions happening. Road.is is one of my faves because on the map, you can look at the physical road that you're going to be on. And a lot of them have cameras. So let's say it's in the wintertime and it will tell you like icy or covered in ice, partially covered in ice. You can literally see in the camera what the road looks like. So it kind of helps you to manage those expectations around going to those areas. Obviously, if there's a weather alert, like a strong one, don't go in that area. Like the search and rescue teams of Iceland are all volunteer based. None of them get paid to go out there and save your life. So they're putting their lives on the line to help you. If you decided, even if it was dumb, to go out in a weather warning that told you don't be in this area or whatever, they will still risk their lives to go out and try and save you. So just in respect of these people who are doing this on their free time or taking off of work to go and help people is just something to keep in mind and be respectful of. I would say also when because it is so windy, and happens all the time, unfortunately, the wind can also push your doors wide enough that it actually breaks the door. So whenever you're getting out of a car, because I remember I just said that there can be hurricane gale force winds, and this is not covered by insurance. So whenever you're getting out of a car and it's a windy day, hold onto your door continuously as you're getting out of the car and continue holding it until you close it. It's better to, if there's multiple people in the car, that one person at a time gets out, closes their door, so you don't create this wind tunnel that comes through the car and can potentially break the doors. And they won't like fall off the car necessarily. It will be attached, but it just won't work properly anymore if it bent backward, So that is something that unfortunately people don't take as serious or don't remember when because it's not an ordinary thing for you to think about the wind breaking the car door, but it does happen and it's expensive to have to replace that. And so it's just, helpful to keep in mind that
That's a great tip. I mean, do you have any other things like that you think like, oh, these are things like people should know that most people aren't paying attention to, or any other tips like that?
Ice wise, I mean, I know Iceland is not as icy as people assume. So it's only covered in 11% ice, but in the wintertime, it is definitely icy in many places. Microspikes will save your joints, like if you fall to potentially, I know people who are Icelandic and they often don't wear microspikes and have fallen and broken their shoulder, their elbow, wrist, whatever.
My neighbor broke her leg last year.
No, I'm sorry.
Her leg falling on ice. Yeah, it's serious.
Yes.
Yeah, you have to wear crampons around town, basically.
Yeah. And so I have like this pair, it's from a company called Katula, that are great. They're not crampons like the ones for a glacier, but they're this big, they're big enough. And I make my mom wear them when she comes because she's in her 70s. There's no way that I'm going to allow my sister to be like, how come you didn't protect our mother from falling, So
For sure.
yeah, that's a huge one. And also it gives you an advantage when you're going out to these half frozen waterfalls and stuff where there's a lot of water that's spraying and then freezing and everyone else is like slipping around and you're just confidently walking and enjoying the scenery, like it's a very, again, like strategic planning or strategic packing will take you a long way. And it doesn't take a lot of items. It's just certain things that will make your time much more enjoyable.
The Blue Lagoon, of course, is the famous hot springs. I've been there, and it's enjoyable, hot pool and everything. It was very crowded, of course. I love a good hot springs, and I think that, you have many ample opportunities there. Where would you recommend people go for like the alternatives to the popular Blue Lagoon? I'm not throwing them under the bus. Like if you want to have that experience, go, and it's relatively close to the airport, I think, from what I can remember. So it's kind of convenient in that way and stuff. But for people that have a little more time that can go a little deeper, yeah.
Yeah, I think it depends on what your want is comfortability wise, right? Like if you're one of those people who wants to have a dedicated shower facility and a building for like, keeping your clothes or something, then there are places that are other lagoons. But another really inexpensive place or inexpensive places to go are local pools. I think people really underestimate how amazing the local pools in Iceland are because Icelanders love to be in hot water. We have an abundance of it. And so even just going to like the most popular one would be in Reykjavik, which is called Laugardalslaug. But we have many. There are 18 hot pools or public swimming pools with wonderful facilities. One of them in Altaneslaug has a wave pool that is so much fun. I found out about this year. Like I knew about the wave pool, but I'd never experienced it. And I did like a collaboration with Visit Reykjavik. And I went and I was like, this was the coolest thing. Like it was just so different than anything I've ever experienced at a pool. And almost every pool has a slide. They have saunas, steam baths, multiple hot tubs of various degrees, because people like to be able to boil sometimes. And if you like cold dipping is really popular in Iceland. So there's always a cold pot for you to go into. And for me, it's like, if you want to also meet Icelanders, this is where Icelanders hang out, is at the pools. They socialize there. They're talking politics in the morning, like the older crowd. There are just people who are relaxing, taking your kids. It's very kid friendly of every age. They even have some indoor facilities if you want to, if you have a much smaller baby and don't want to have them out in the elements. So I would say that a big hack to enjoying Iceland, like abundance of hot water and still getting a lot of facilities, is going to a local pool. It's so simple. There's so many to choose from. You could literally spend your whole vacation just traveling around to different pools in the country because almost every town in Iceland has one. And yeah, they're really big on it. And if you want to do it more in the rugged style, I would say go to the West Fjords. I call it the area of geothermal hot pools. And there are so many. I'm trying to think, maybe like 6 or 7 that I can, from my last trip that I went to, and had them to myself because I was willing to wake up early in the morning and go and just be there at like 7 o'clock in the morning and then hit up multiple hot pools at a time. But again, the facilities are like, everything is outside. You don't have always, some of them have a little shelter, but a lot of them you're just undressing right there and, or maybe in your camper van or your car, whatever.
It's the European way, isn't it, Jules? Yeah.
Thankfully, Icelanders don't do the naked in the sauna thing, though. I'm okay with that.
Yeah. Yeah, no, they don't do that here either. But it's the same kind of like I go to this one sauna and the changing room is so tiny, and there's no, you don't close a door anywhere.
Yeah.
Everybody's just changing.
Yeah, and it's same here. Like, it's a very big thing if you're going to go to a local pool or any pool really, is to shower naked before you put on your bathing suit to go into the pool, and with soap, right? So we're not just talking about a good rinse. They want you to do the whole clean yourself because the idea is that you're helping to keep the pool cleaner longer. There's like a small amount of chlorine that they're using, and they're trying to minimize that in order to allow for everyone to be able to enjoy and not have all these chemicals. And it often throws people off, usually Americans. And being from the United States, I get it. Like, we're not used to having this communal shower area. It's divided by gender, But, you know, you're still getting naked in front of people you don't know and showering in front of people you don't know. And I know that can throw some people off. In the biggest hot public swimming pool, they have some individual stalls now, but they also do have people in there who are working at the pool and say, hey, they see you, go from the locker room because you have to pass through the shower area. They see you that you didn't shower. They're like, excuse me, you have to shower. And the person will be like, oh, no, I'm like, no, you're not clean. I don't care if you came here and you just took a shower outside the building. You have to clean inside. We have to know that you're clean. And that can throw some people off. It's not at every pool, but like an Icelander would also come up to you and be like, excuse me, maybe you don't know, but like the way we do it here is this way. And I've seen that happen plenty of times. So it is, again, a communal thing. Like we talk about this individualized, like mind your own business. It's like, no, this is our business. Okay, I don't want to be in a pool with your sweaty, dirty self. Please shower.
So get ready to let it all hang out and embrace your time in Iceland. Yeah. What is your favorite, like your personal favorite Icelandic cultural concept or tradition or like thing that they do that's maybe part of your sort of daily...
Oh, daily, okay.
Daily thing, or maybe not a daily thing, but
I was going to say, I have some really specialty things that so first of all, like it's Christmas time because there's nothing else to look forward to in Iceland besides Christmas, right? And now there's all these Christmas buffets. I love it. I love and there's like a specific plant-based one that I go to that last year they did an insanely good job of doing like, you know, fake hangikjöt, which is like smoked meat, smoked lamb. And I just like really enjoy this tradition of laufabrauð. So it's a thin bread that has these designs in it. So it's as thin as a leaf. It's literally called leaf bread. So around Christmas, I love these food traditions. Piparkökur, which is basically gingerbread cookies, but they just taste better. The ones with the shape of a heart. You know, like it's just like I love that so much. And my favorite holiday is actually how I met my current boyfriend, which is so funny. Is I made a video about bolludagur. So this is not Christmas related. It's related actually to Lent. Weirdly enough, I'm not religious. No, hardly anybody I know here is religious, but Icelanders take advantage of every religious holiday.
It's the same here. It's so funny.
Right?
Yeah,
it's so funny to feel like no one's going to church, but everybody's off, probably on vacation in Spain or something, or like skiing. And so bolludagur means cream bun day. And these insanely good buns they have cream in the middle with jam and then the bread and chocolate on the top. And there's variations. There's so many variations. And there's like over 1 million bollur or cream buns that are eaten like every year. And given the fact that there's like 400,000 or less than 400,000 people living in the country, it's insane amounts of bollur that are eaten. Probably more than 1 million.
Yeah.
But
something you have to eat.
I would say if you're going to come the Monday before Ash Wednesday, that's when bolludagur is. And even that weekend before, go to any bakery and they will have insane varieties of bollur. Try it. It is delicious. Now, my boyfriend, who's Icelandic, doesn't like bolludagur. He doesn't like bollur at all. But he thinks it's a stupid holiday. I think it's great. And actually, the kids, they have this tradition where they make a little like switch. Not really a switch, but it's kind of like a stick. And when your parents wake up, you have to smack them on the butt and say, bolla, 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 as many times you can. And if you say, like, the amount of times you said bolla, which is like cream bun, then that's the amount of cream buns that you get for, like, smack them on the butt before they turn around. So it's just like, it turns into like this fun thing. But I made a video and he saw that video, thought it was hilarious, even though he doesn't like bolludagur, and reached out. And, you know, now we're good. So
that's so funny. That will be a tradition I won't tell my kids about because I do not want to be woken up that way. That's funny. Again, I know with the caveat that you have a plant-based diet, but are there any other like sort of you must try this meal?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Like Icelandic ice cream. Hot dogs. Iceland is really known for its hot dogs and a one with everything. And it has fried onions and remoulade, which is like this kind of mayonnaise thing with, I think, it's kind of like relish and mayonnaise together. And tomat sosa is ketchup, but it's a ketchup that it just tastes a little bit different, and a sweet mustard And onions and stuff like that. And it has raw onions and fried onions. If you don't like raw onions, you can obviously not get it with that. But the fried onions and the crunchiness along with the hot dog and the soft bun and all the toppings, it's really fun. Icelandic, like I mentioned, ice cream, candy, licorice, like in all the other Nordic places, right? Insane. It's a
but
lot
I
of
hate
stuff.
licorice. I wish I liked it. I want to like it. There's so much licorice here. If I buy my wife candy, then I buy her licorice because then she knows I'm not like secretly also getting it for me. You know that move where you're like, here, this is for you. And I'm like, oh, can I have like 5 of those?
Yeah.
Like the licorice I know is just for her because I can't stand it, but
exactly.
I wish I liked it.
I'm not a big fan of it either. I mean, I've gotten more used to it, but and of course, like Icelanders, fishing is a huge thing. So eating cod or what is it? It's called blekja. It's Arctic char, salmon, things like this. Like there's is it lox? I can't remember the name. It's like it's salmon, but it's like done a certain way that you can. Okay, smoked salmon. There you go. Jeez Louise. Okay, and then
Gotcha.
lamb. So Icelandic lamb is huge. It's an export that I guess is quite significant for the culture or like GDP or something. And yeah, I'm trying to think of other foods. But there's a lot of modern foods happening here too, and variations on that. But like ice cream, hot dogs, lamb, fish, you're pretty much in there with the diet. And then, there's potatoes and sauces and things. And if you want to try
the 4 staples: ice cream, hot dogs, lamb, and fish.
Yeah, I think Icelanders would be like, yep, that makes sense. and then the variation, skyr, that's right. So skyr it looks like it's a yogurt, but it's actually classified as a cheese, like the way it's made. It's very thick. If you think of like Greek yogurt, but it's more sour and it's very high in protein. So eating Icelandic skyr, it comes in unflavored, but of course there's like flavored ones. And dried fish, people who are interested in that, I would just say, for the sake of everyone involved, please do not open dried fish in airplanes, in other people's cars without their consent, in other people's homes without their consent, because it is very strong smell. It is very intense.
Another hot tip.
Yes.
Take it to heart.
And if you want to kiss somebody after who has not been eating dried fish, wash your mouth out, brush your teeth, do something. It's not pleasant.
That's awesome. Well, hey, on that note, how was dating in Iceland?
Oh my gosh. First of all, never thought that would be a part of my life. Okay. Like I was not expected to ever get divorced. And I would say like most people were like, oh, out there, it's crazy. It's crazy everywhere. Okay. Like that's not, I don't want to make it seem like Iceland was any different. They're the weirdos who you just don't, vibe with or something. And I've never had anything that was so off the wall that I needed to like stop dating. But I realized that I had to go about it in a very strategic way because first of all, more people know me now because I've only dated in like the last like year or so, right? Like after I got divorced in 2023, we got divorced in 2023, but we separated in 2022. So all that time I was like, I'm not worried about a relationship. Like I just legitimately want to mentally and emotionally get myself back on track. I have a business that I'm running. Like there's so much here that relies on me that the idea of trying to throw myself into something without having also grieved what did happen and whatever else, so I gave myself a lot of time. That helped a lot. But even then, once I got into dating, I was like, this is crazy. Like there are cultural things. And then there are just, I think, stuff that a lot of people are experiencing in the world when it comes to the evolution of how people relate to each other. And the internet does not help. Everybody's a relationship guru. So I had to kind of turn off all of that and really just dial into what makes sense for me. And that helped me a lot to decipher, in the end, a person. And I have a wonderful boyfriend and I'm very happy. And I'm very fortunate to not be in that position to have to date anymore. So
nice. Congratulations.
Thank you.
It's nice to hear things worked out. All right. Well, then I have to circle back, I guess, to ask you about the home country question, right? How has being in Iceland since 2016 changed how you see your home country and what? Yeah.
Yeah, a lot. I think I already knew of this idea about Americans from traveling abroad when I was younger. So I was fortunate in high school to go to Italy for a couple of weeks on a school trip. And at that time, it was like the ugly American type of rhetoric, So I remember telling people I was from like Canada or something. It's just and doing my best to speak. Like I spoke Spanish decently, so I was using that. And but over time, I think because the United States is so powerful, right? No one can ever deny like the impact. So here, media, ideas even about like what's appropriate for like politics and stuff, all of that from the US finds its way over into other places. And the US has a lot of, from World War II and helping out in Iceland and helping Iceland to actually grow as a nation, it brought burgers and pizza and stuff like that over. So there's just a lot of things that Icelanders sort of can lean to and look at. But one thing I think in general is how the movement in terms of people are so divided on really basic human rights things in the United States that it troubles Icelanders to see this, right? And so for myself, seeing that was like, oh, wow. Like people would ask me like, what is going on there? Like, why is this even up for debate, right? As a thing. And I'm just like, I wish I could tell you. Like, I wish I understood it myself, because the longer I'm away from it, the more distant I feel that I can relate to like what exactly has been going on and like has continuously changed. And also, though, the US is still like the land of the plenty, I call it. So when I go out to like New York, especially, but anywhere, any grocery store in the United States, for the most part, has way more things in it than Iceland. And I'm just like, wow, look at that. The variety of apples, oranges, the different
16
fruits.
peanut butters.
Yeah,
Awesome.
I love it. I love it. And so like my boyfriend loves New York, and we were in New York for 2 weeks in October, and we were just going bananas. Like the amount of things we bought and ate and just enjoyed, you know, like I forget how less is available to me because it would, first of all, be so expensive to try and maintain here, but also like import cost and whatever else, like just not really here. So I make do. I'm very happy. I don't have any complaints. I just also relish in going back to the United States to experience things that I just don't have available to me.
I'd get very frustrated, just the lack of choice for some things here. And then I would go back, like, well, every time I go back to the US, I go bananas. It's like, you know, the same kind of thing. You're just like, I'm going to get every single, you know, thing. And then it's like, I'm full. Oh, I wish I could go get takeout at that Mexican restaurant but now I'm full. I ate lunch. Darn it. You know, it's just like you want to pack in so much. But now I have come to appreciate the limitation in choices here, actually, because I find that there's actually some freedom in not having 16 peanut butters to choose from, only having 2.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just like, oh, this is like, all right, I don't really have much to choose from here. I'll just take this one, whatever. It's like less bandwidth or something. I don't know. But maybe it's the minimalism in me. I mean, I don't know about you, but when you come back from America with a suitcase, you know a portion of it is dedicated.
A whole suitcase, not a portion. A whole suitcase.
Like, almost, yeah, let's face it. Almost the entire suitcase is going to be an illegal import. So what is in your suitcase, Jules?
Okay. So, of course, there are plant-based things in my suitcase.
Oh, yeah, sure.
But usually there's clothing, because the hardest thing is like shopping in Iceland, whether it's food or clothing, is expensive. And there's a lot of things that I would like, but I can literally find it online in the US for sometimes half the price. And I'm like, you know what? An airline ticket with shopping is less expensive overall than me buying all of those items of clothing. So I am going to wait until so sports gear, of course, like things for like being outdoorsy, like hiking boots. I often, if I can't find a certain type of food that's a dry food, then I'll buy, like there's a protein pasta that I liked, that I was like, oh, I'm going to bring that back in my suitcase or something. Even something as kind of silly as grits. So I'm not Southern.
Yeah. No, that's not silly at all. I'm 100% on board with the grits. Yeah.
Can't find it anywhere in an Icelandic market. No. And while I'm not like this huge grits eater, meaning I don't eat it every day, every once in a while I get this like nostalgia that I want to have it. And so just having the option is really nice. So
yeah.
Sure.
So I could totally relate to that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, that's right. And there's some travel tips in there in a way too, because like if you're kind of on the mentality of, oh, I'm just going to show up in Iceland and I'll buy all my outdoor gear there when I get there. Mm-hmm. then maybe you want to rethink that if you're going to be doing a lot of hiking and stuff, because like you said, things tend to be more expensive.
Yes. Also, there are companies though, like 66 Degrees North is popular. It's not my favorite because the fashion is not necessarily fitting my aesthetic, but like Sentamani is an Icelandic company that sells really great Icelandic branded clothing. And I know that because I did a collaboration with them. I'm not collaborating with them right now, so it's like I'm not gaining necessarily from this, but I've used their rain jackets and pants and everything, and they're excellent quality. So Sentamani, it doesn't sound Icelandic at all because it isn't. They bought over the name from, they took it over from something else. I can also write that down and share that with you if you want. And they have an outlet in the area near Costco. So it's like coming from the airport as well as in another part of Reykjavik. And I've really enjoyed their clothing, and it has lasted me for years, actually. So I would say there are some places that getting outdoor clothing could be worth it. But maybe if you go to the outlet instead of like the full-blown store or something, then you can get it better.
Yeah, that's a great idea. I think also like sometimes you need some extra gear, and like it's better to travel light and I think have to buy a thing or two than to try to pack everything and then you end up overpacking. But speaking of packing, we'll link up to the list, the podcast, all the things at allthingsiceland.com. And is there anywhere else you want to like invite people to connect, or is that just the main hub? Just go to...
So, I mean, yes, definitely on the website is where you'll find all the podcast episodes and about me and things like that. But also YouTube, I'm quite active there. Instagram, very active. TikTok, Facebook. I try to make it so that people can find me in all the places that would potentially suit them across different channels. And if people need help with planning trips, I have resources and things like that. I have an Iceland map that I created too. So there's a lot of different potential ways in which you can interact with me. Even meet and greets. I did a dinner last night that was really fun. So people want to like actually meet up and chat and have food together. Yeah, it's totally up to you how you want to interact with my content or me as an individual.
I loved interacting with you today.
Yeah, thank you. Likewise.
Thank you for taking the time and, taking your energy to put together such an awesome list of off the beaten track places that people can see, which we'll include in the show notes on the website. Stay in touch. Let's do it in person next time.
I love that. Where are you in Norway?
I'm in Oslo.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've been there once.
If you passed through.
Yeah, I've passed through twice, but once I didn't leave the airport. The other time I did. And I've been to Trondheim years ago.
Yeah.
I was like 20. So, yeah.
Oh, nice. Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, you're due for a visit then. Well, let me know and I'll do the same. Do you want to leave us with like a favorite quote or something? I know we started off at the top with like a really interesting quote you had, or like something you're living by right now, or just some last words of wisdom.
Yes. So Maya Angelou, who I love, her work, has the quote that says, when you give, when you learn, teach. And that's something that I do my best to live by, is that the information or experiences that I get can be part of all of us learning from. And I mean, it's not just me as an individual, but all of us have something that we can provide and give of value. So be open and willing to that. And you never know what that can turn into.
Beautiful. I Know Why the Cage Bird Sings. Amazing book.
Her book. Good. Heartbreaking at times, but so good.
Oh gosh. So that's a whole other conversation.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
All right. Take care.
Thanks. You too.
There you go. Special thanks to Jules Chambers for stopping by the show. allthingsiceland.com. You can find all of her amazing resources over there, as well as her podcast. I want to thank her for her time. And thank you for your time, my friend. I'm going to leave you with a quote in a moment. First, just a quick reminder, zerototravel.com/newsletter. That goes out once a week. It's free. You get some fun travel links, some musings, the type of stuff you get on the podcast, just additional fuel for your wanderlust and much more. You can sign up over there. It's free. Now, this quote coming from George Bernard Shaw, who said, "Life isn't about finding yourself. Life is about creating yourself." I love that. That was a huge mindset shift in some ways. I remember taking off early on my first journey and thinking, yeah, part of that, of course, inherent in travel can be this idea of finding yourself. But perhaps we're not finding ourselves. Perhaps we're just in the process of creating ourselves. Part of that might be finding and discovering parts of ourselves. But thinking about us creating ourselves in real time, whether we're taking off on a new journey in life and travel and work, we are in real time creating ourselves. And I just wanted to leave you with that because I read that this morning and it was hitting me in a certain way, and I thought I'd share it with you. So anyway, I'll let you go now. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you next time. Peace and love to you and yours. Cheers.
This podcast has been brought to you by ZeroToTravel.com. Ideas and advice to make your travel dreams a reality.